feel important to show you this tiger's eye snake coiled up inside this solar plexus chakra singing bell. Nope, that's the root chakra. And then this. Found this while connecting to the cosmos. Visiting the beach. It means something for me. Also this polar bear fetish. Starting to understand it more and more. Three heads, old yang. Maybe this was from that too. Two tails, one head. Yang yang. Three tails. Old yin. Two tails, one head. Yin yang. Three heads. Old yang. Two tails, one head. Yin yang. We will read just a very little bit from the Book of Balance and Harmony. Book of Balance and Harmony. These essays, conversations, poetry, and songs about the secrets of Taoism teach how to live a centered and orderly life. Consequently, the large part of this is written on page 444. Firing process. If you want to reach the mystery of mysteries, you need to be careful when alone. The mechanism of the work is in the eye. Cut off the dust of form, and you will be impeccable. The clear, open heart will shine like jade. Bring about utter emptiness. Keep stillness steady. Within stillness, a moving yang of creative energy returns. At the first yang, the hidden dragon should be under control. Then when you get to seeing the dragon, do not be hasty. As soon as you experience working hard, light illumines within. When sometimes leaping in the abyss, then bathe. At the fifth yang, the flying dragon affects evolution and development. Then when yang peaks, yin arises, necessitating withdrawal, preventing insidious inroads. At the first yin of earth, withdraw to where sense joins essence. At the third yin, it won't do to glorify with emolument. After closing the bag, the spiritual elixir is ripe. If you meet with battle in the field, set your will on locking up tight. When the mundane is stripped away and the celestial is pure, then the firing is sufficient. A tiny pearl is swallowed into the belly, producing a complete real member of the immortals. Yin and yang are always in harmony, their combinations proportionate in accordance with the time. Essence and sense live together. Conscious knowledge and real knowledge spontaneously join. Having finished making space into an unconstructed abode, this host is truly no ordinary worldling. The mountain crags hiding the clouds, heaven and earth are clear. The shining light of the moon illumines the open valley. Our bottom trigram of our primary hexagram will be read as solid, solid, broken. That is the trigram Dewey, lake or marsh. Dewey is lake and marsh, abundant energy that teems with life. She is the impulse to communicate, share, and exchange, and delights in both inner and outer conversation. She brings things into circulation and gives them voice. This is the sheer enjoyment of participating in life to the full, expressing ourselves and hearing others and satisfying our desires. Lake is the youngest daughter, spirit of the fertile west and of autumn. The top trigram of our primary hexagram will be read as solid, solid, solid. And that is Qian, heaven. Qian is superhuman cosmic law. Enduring, he determines the nature and development of all things, from the movement of the stars to the cycle of the seasons, to causing each individual seed to grow into its own kind of plant. Heaven is creativity in its pure form, the force that drives change, and one endures within it. He confronts us with truth and what it demands, both as the absolute law of nature and as the challenge of individual calling, experienced as an inner law. He is both the awareness of what to do and how to be, and also the power to act on it. Heaven is Father, found in the northwest, the realm between autumn and winter, when the buds set and the seeds fall to earth. Once we read those two trigrams together with Qian, heaven, above Dewey, lake or marsh, that gives us hexagram. Oh, I want to read from, well, no, I'm going to put the hexagrams together first. Qian, heaven, above Dewey, lake or marsh. 10, hexagram 10. Knew we'd get there. And then, once our first and third lines transform from their old versions to their young opposites, old yang will transform to young yin, and old yin will transform to young yang. So that will give us open, whole, whole, or broken, solid, solid. This is Zun, wind or wood. Zun is both wind and living plants. Whatever penetrates, spreads, and grows, shaping itself to the space available, or shaping that space to its own nature. She is responsive flexibility, sensitively improvising and adapting. Like the wind, she can always find a way through because she never creates any resistance, and so her influence is subtle and gradual, but far-reaching. In the family of trigrams, Xun is the eldest daughter, gentle and submissive. She belongs to the southeast and to late spring and early summer. Our top trigram, the fifth line, the line of the ruler, is going to transform from an old yang to a young yin, which will give us solid, broken, solid, which is Li, fire and light. Li is fire and light, both inner and outer. As an inner light, she is consciousness at its most lucid and unclouded, holding things together in the mind, perceiving their differences and connections, and discerning the underlying patterns of relationship. And as well as vision, Li is the light that makes things visible. The power to cast light on things, spreading clarity and the awareness of order. Li is the middle daughter, living in the south, the region of midsummer and the burning sun. Li, fire and light, above. Xun, wind or wood. gives us hexagram 50. So we have primary hexagram of 10 and a supporting hexagram of 50. And when we approach the I Ching and consult the oracle, which is what you would call asking a question of the I Ching, the general context of your question is, how can I act in creative relation with the spirits or forces shaping this moment of time? The way we answer that question, or the I Ching does, is in a mysterious way. But to understand it, we'll need to know how the parts of our reading work together. The key to understanding a reading is to know your way around its main components, how they fit together, and the different roles they play. If your reading includes changing lines, then you'll need to understand primary hexagram, relating hexagram, and changing lines together. The two hexagrams in conversation with one another map out your whole answer. The primary hexagram shows you quite directly what your answer involves. The relating hexagram generally describes what the answer is about for you. It sets the primary hexagram in a broader context, an influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. If the two hexagrams map out a landscape for you, then the changing lines stick a pin in that map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They are the immediate answer to your question. As the most specific, focused part of a reading, their message always takes precedence over all other elements. For example, the primary hexagram might describe a reassuringly secure situation, but a changing line could warn how insecure your position is within it. We will be beginning the definitions, or the main titles of our hexagrams, through I-Ming's The Taoist I Ching. And it's been translated by Thomas Cleary. I-Ming wrote this in 1796 as a Taoist adept. Hexagram 10 is called treading, progress, advance of the positive, prevention of danger by caution, empowerment by calmness, and trust. With our changing lines being the most focused part of our reading, the interesting thing to note will be where those fall. It's either success or failure in treading on a tiger's tail. If you tread successfully, you're able to harness the power of the tiger. And 50, the Cauldron, that's our supporting hexagram. Refining illumination. Okay, we will get into Hilary Barrett's beginner I Ching commentary, I'd call it, but also still incredibly profound. Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future. And we will read her takes on these. So, 10, treading, she calls treading. Hexagram 10. Key questions. Where is the tiger? Do you know how to work with such power? Oracle. Treading a tiger's tail, it does not bite people, creating success. There are tigers in the outer world and also inner tigers. As you get close, it's good to recognize the tiger for what it is. Treading the tiger's tail is perilous. Yet, if you can move in harmony with it, you can invite its power into your own life as protection, fertility, and blessing. To do this without getting bitten requires both skill and care. Look to the power and intensity you are drawn to in the situation. Its specific danger is there, and also its potential gift. Image. Heaven above, lake below, treading. A noble one differentiates above and below, and makes a place for the people's aspiration. The depths of the sky are reflected in the lake as it dances below heaven. An awareness of other dimensions of reality enters inner dialogue, and this becomes aspiration. It's as natural for people to aspire as it is for the lake to reflect. By marking out the difference between above and below, a noble one shows there is a direction to travel and a distance to cross. This means differentiating the ideal you aspire to from your step-by-step progress as you follow it. Sequence. Treading follows from Hexagram 9, small taming. Things are tamed, and then there are the rituals, and so treading follows. First you learn the rules for working with great power, inwardly or outwardly, and then you can move with it more freely and harmoniously. And hexagram 50, our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Hexagram 50, the vessel. Key questions in, like I-Ming called it through Thomas Clary, Cauldron. Key questions. What is the vessel for transformation? What are you beginning? What will you cook? Oracle. The vessel, creating success from the source. Good fortune. This marks a new beginning. The sacred vessel is cast and used in the great ceremonies that inaugurate a new dynasty. The spirits are invited to share in the meal it contains, renewing their connection with the people. The vessel provides stable, robust foundations for a new life, and also the crucible where you can expect to be transformed and remade. The vessel contains and transforms. Just as wood becomes fire or smelted ore becomes a great bronze vessel, or raw ingredients become fragrant food, so the experiences of life can be blended and transmuted into a meaningful whole. Image. Above wood there is fire, the vessel. A noble one sets the situation straight and consolidates her destiny. Fire arises from wood, and clarity arises from subtle inward receptivity. This is the cooking place, the place for transmutation. And so the noble one works to bring it into harmony. She straightens out her situation, her relationships especially, and where she stands overall. This provides a good, stable basis for transformative work, a harmonious context where destiny can be realized. Inside a well-made vessel, your sense of who you are and what you are here to do crystallizes and becomes clearly defined. Sequence. The vessel follows from hexagram 49, radical change. For radically changing things, nothing equals the vessel. It continues what radical change began, providing a secure space for transformation. Back to our primary hexagram 10, we will read our changing lines, which again, put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They are the most focused part of the reading. They take precedence over all other elements. Our changing lines each have their own general contexts to them. So our changing lines were 1, 3, and 5. And the general context of changing line 1 is inklings, just beginning to sense what could be involved or needed. And changing line 3, an emerging identity, facing a transition with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. And changing line 5, the line of the ruler, higher self, strength and self-determination, clear vision, being in command. These may not agree with one another. If that's the case, we're to just wrestle with that on our own and see what that could possibly mean for us. Changing line 1 of hexagram 10, treading. Plain treading going on, no mistake. What can you do when you realize you're not where you want to be? Simple. You move on, following your desire, lightly and responsively and without fuss. There's no way to control everything or plan it all in advance. No need to wrestle with the tiger just because it's there. You can only take one step at a time, so what is your simplest next step? Line 3, with one eye can see, lame can walk, treads on the tiger's tail, it bites him, pitfall, soldier acting as a great leader. When walking with tigers, making do with capacities that are good enough is not a good strategy. Here is someone who can see, but not the whole picture, and can move forward, but not in balance. This is like a soldier who lacks the capacity to lead, but who feels he must step up and take charge nonetheless. Bravery doesn't blunt the tiger's teeth. And changing line 5. Decisive treading, constancy, danger. Your treading embodies who you are. What you choose declares your identity. When you decide to be fully present in everything you do, with nothing grudging or half-hearted, you make this your life. Constancy on this path is dangerous. When you are highly individualistic, you may not fit in so well. People who are less sensitive to their surroundings and to whatever isn't a part of their own identity are not so easy to relate to. We will now turn to James Dekorne's Gnostic Book of Changes, is what he calls it. I've left links to his site that you can read all of this on in the description box below. He is a practitioner of the Tao as well, and he's compiled several I Ching commentaries for us in one spot that anyone can, with internet access, can access. You can even print it off as a PDF. But he's synthesized several I Ching commentaries, and he gives helpful editor's notes that are from all manner of sources, and they all blend beautifully together. Hexagram 10, or primary hexagram, he calls cautious advance. That's our treading hexagram. Other titles might be treading, conduct, the symbol of stepping carefully, proper conduct, cautious treading, proceeding cautiously, watch your step, proceed at your own risk, advancing with care. Quote from D.F. Hook, illustrates the difference between courage and foolhardiness. Judgment, leg. Cautious advance, these names, they're the various commentaries, so they're the different takes of the same thing, all within the heading of the judgment of the hexagram. There's judgment, and there's the image, and then there's the commentary, and then there's notes and paraphrases. And I'll just be reading the ones that seem to jump out at me. Cautious advance suggests the idea of one treading on the tail of a tiger which does not bite him. There will be progress and success. Wilhelm/Baines, treading upon the tail of the tiger. It does not bite the man. Success. For the weak to take a stand against the strong is not dangerous here, because it happens in good humor and without presumption, so that the strong man is not irritated, but takes it all in good part. Such simplicity and unpretentiousness is faith derived from reality, neither from love of happiness nor fear of unhappiness, but free of fear and hope. The concern here is with the art of action by means of proper conduct, and presupposes being childlike in its highest sense. Blowfold, though he treads upon the tiger's tail, it does not bite him. Success. The general idea of this hexagram is that success can be won, but that the situation is dangerous enough to require extreme caution. The tiger may not bite, but on the other hand, as lines 3 and 5 demonstrate, we cannot be certain of this. To consort with rulers and people in high places may be most beneficial, but should we fail to please, they may make us regret our temerity. Ritzema/Karcher, treading a tiger's tail, not snapping at people, growing. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of finding and making your way. It emphasizes that doing this step by step is the adequate way to handle it. Slofnacy, treading on a tiger's tail, not a real man, receipt. Cleary, too, someone treads on a tiger's tail without being bitten, thus getting through. Wu, treading after a tiger without being bitten indicates pervasion. A quote, the image is the next section. Leg. The image of the sky above and below it with waters of a marsh form cautious advance. The superior man, in accordance with this, discriminates between high and low and gives settlement to the aims of the people. Wilhelm/Baines. Heaven above, the lake below, the image of treading. Thus the superior man discriminates between high and low and thereby fortifies the thinking of the people. Thus the superior man creates in society the differences in rank that correspond with differences in natural endowment, and in this way fortifies the thinking of the people, who are reassured when these differences accord with nature. We see a universe moved from within, without external manipulation. Since the universe is also within the human being, internal universal order leads to order without, by the force of necessary differentiation. Cf. The Ideal Society in Plato's Republic. Blowfold. This hexagram symbolizes a body of water lying open to the sky. The superior man consults both high and low, and thereby steadies the people's will. Ritzema/Karcher. Heaven above, marsh below, treading, a chunsu, or chief son, or superior person, or sage, or noble one. Uses differentiating above and below. A chunsu uses setting right the commoners, the purpose. Yes. Wu, heaven above and marshes below. This is treading. Thus the chunsi discriminates, or chief son or superior person, discriminates various levels of governmental services and sets the goals of the people. Commentary. Confucius/Leg. In cautious advance, we have the symbol of weakness treading on that of strength. The lower trigram indicates pleasure and satisfaction and responds to the upper indicating strength. Hence it is said he treads on the tail of the tiger. The fifth line is dynamic in the central, or in the center, and his correct place. He occupies the God-given position and falls into no distress or failure. His action will be brilliant. Leg. Cautious advance is made up of the lower trigram of pleased satisfaction or naivety, and the upper trigram of heaven or primal power. Being situated below the great symbol of strength, naivete is seen to be stepping on a tiger's tail. To emerge unscathed from such a danger depends entirely upon propriety and a strict observance of all the rules of correct behavior. On these, as so many stepping stones, one may tread safely amid scenes of disorder and peril. The symbol of weakness, according to Wang Shentzu, is the third line, which is urged on by the two lines below it to encounter the three strong lines above. Other commentators say that the whole lower trigram, partaking of the yin nature, is the symbol of weakness, and the entire upper trigram is symbolic of strength. The Chen Chung editors say that to get the full meaning, we must hold both views. Chen Tzu says of the image, the sky above and a marsh lying below it is true in nature and reason, and so should be the rules of propriety on which men tread. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. A cautious advance in the face of potentially volatile conditions will lead to safety. The superior man orders his priorities realistically and gets a grip on himself. Cautious advance depicts the lower trigram of the joyful youngest daughter stepping on the heels of the upper trigram of heaven. The stern pater familias, Yahweh Sabaoth, or Zeus with his thunderbolt. In her innocence, she doesn't realize the danger of her action. This is treading on the tail of the tiger, and the hexagram teaches us how to do this without being bitten. The original judgment suggests that superior powers realize the innocent intent of the action and may be inclined to be lenient. A quote from Goethe, that's how you say that. You should not resist fate, nor need you escape it. If you go to meet it, it will guide you pleasantly. Wilhelm's notes on the image illustrate the undemocratic truth that although all men are created equal in the eyes of God, every human being possesses clearly differentiated strengths, weaknesses, talents, and incapacities. In lectures on the I-Ching, he says, the secret of proper conduct is in inequality.
Uniformity alone cannot give rise to proper conduct. To be sure, uniformity might produce rule and regulation or law and force, but tedious force and brutal law never led people to convictions that legitimately resulted in proper conduct. The term includes that which produces proper conduct and proper conduct achieved. Instead, as Confucius said, force produces only alienation, and people transgress secretly that which is public regulation. Cautious advance often images a test situation, or it can be a warning that you are walking on the edge of a precipice. The image of the Fool in the tarot deck has similar associations. Without changing lines, this hexagram implies a need for extreme caution, or that your actions are tempting fate. We have it with changing lines, so we'll see what those mean for us. Here's a quote from J. Blofeld in The Tantric Mysticism of Tibet. The passions, instead of having to be painfully exterminated, are yoked like snarling tigers to the adept's carriage. The dangers of such a course are obvious. As one of my Lama teachers put it, while you were traveling in that cart, a tumble would have done you little harm. Now I have given you an airplane. Don't crash in flames. We will go to our supporting hexagram 50, and again, that puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. He calls our supporting hexagram 50 the sacrificial vessel. Other titles: the Cauldron, the Vessel, Rejuvenation, Cosmic Order, the Alchemical Vessel. A quote from D.F. Hook: a complete transformation of a person or circumstance. Judgment. Leg. The sacrificial vessel means great progress and success. Blofeld. A sacrificial vessel, supreme success. Lu. The Cauldron. Great good fortune, success. Ritzema/Karcher. The vessel. Spring, significant, growing. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of the imaginative capacity of a sacred vessel. It emphasizes that securing and imaginatively transforming the material at hand is the adequate way to handle it. To be in accord with the time, you are told to hold and transform things in the vessel. Cleary 2, the Cauldron is very auspiciously developmental. Wu, the Cauldron indicates great auspiciousness and pervasiveness. The image, leg. Wood under a fire, the image of a sacrificial vessel. The superior man maintains his correctness in every situation to secure the appointment of heaven. Wilhelm/Baines, fire over wood, the image of the Cauldron. Thus the superior man consolidates his fate by making his position correct. Blofeld, this hexagram symbolizes fire upon wood. The superior man, taking his stance as righteousness requires, adheres firmly to heaven's decrees. Lu, fire above wood symbolizes the Cauldron. The superior man makes his destiny firm with a correct position. Ritzema/Karcher, above wood possessing fire, the vessel. A Chun-Tzu, or chief son or superior person, uses correcting the situation to solidify fate. Wu, there is fire on the wood. This is the Cauldron. Thus the Chun-Tzu, or chief son or superior person, rectifies his position and consecrates the mandate. Commentary. Wow. Confucius/Leg, the image of the sacrificial vessel shows us wood entering a fire, which suggests the idea of cooking. The sages cooked their sacrifices to God and nourished their able ministers with feasts. We have the trigrams of flexible obedience and quick intelligence, with the magnetic line of advance to the ruler's place and responded to by her dynamic correlate below. All these things give the auspice of successful progress. Leg. The written Chinese character for sacrificial vessel represents a cauldron with 3 feet and 2 ears, used for cooking and preparing food for both the table and the altar. The hexagram pictures this vessel The divided first line represents the feet. The 3 undivided lines above represent the body. The divided fifth line shows the ears, or carrying rings. And the top line is the handle by which the container is carried or suspended from a hook. The lesson of the hexagram is that the nourishing of men of talent and virtue intimates great progress and success. The Konghasi editors point out that the distinction between hexagram number 48, the well, and this one is the difference between the nourishment of the people in general and the specific nourishing of worthy men. They add that the reality of sacrifice is nourishing in this regard. Notes and paraphrases, judgment. You are the sacrificial vessel. The superior man holds to the principles of the work to attain transcendence. The usual name of this hexagram is the cauldron, specifically a type of food-containing vessel which was used in ancient China for religious sacrifices. I prefer Blofeld's title, the sacrificial vessel, as more evocative of the ideas presented in the figure. When the 49th hexagram of transformation is turned upside down, it becomes the 50th hexagram of the sacrificial vessel, thus giving us some valuable insights into the nuances of meaning in each of the figures. The combined ideas of transformation in a cauldron used for sacrifices remind us of the alchemical vessel or retort, which cooked its contents and transformed them into a higher state of matter, turned lead into gold in the popular conception. Of course, the true esoteric purpose of the alchemist was psychological, not physical. A quote from M.E. Harding in Psychic Energy. The vessel of the alchemist, like the circle of the psyche and the mandala, must be closed if the transformation process is to proceed satisfactorily. For the alchemists, the process took place in the material substances collected in the retort. For us, this is a symbol representing a similar process taking place within the psyche. Thus it is said that a wall must be securely built about the psyche before the reconciliation of the opposites can take place within it, and before the new center of the individual can be created. For if anything is lost, the process is nullified and the final product will be incomplete, imperfect. So long, for instance, as the individual continues to project his deficiencies or his values upon circumstances or upon another, he does not have an impervious vessel. Thus, the contents essentially involved in the transformation are seen to be the irrational, instinctual, not yet human factors of the psyche, the non-ego. The human and civilized factors, those subject to the will, make up the wall of the vessel. Now, an ancient Chinese cauldron used to contain food intended for religious sacrifices is not the same thing as a hermetically sealed alchemical retort made to withstand extreme pressures, but symbolically they are identical images. The ego sacrifices its autonomy for the good of the work, in the same way that the alchemist devotes his entire life to the transformation of base metal into gold, i.e., to transform his psyche by following the extreme discipline of the work. Thomas Cleary's Taoist I Ching explicitly tells us that this is the meaning intended here. We will be turning to that next. The work of refinement is the means by which to sublimate earthly energy and stabilize celestial energy, causing the raw to ripen and the old to be renewed, whereby it is possible to illumine the mind and to solidify life. Therefore, the cauldron is basically good and it has a developmental path. The basis is the potential of everlasting life, of goodness. The cooking of the great medicine in the cauldron is the firing of this living potential to make it incorruptible and permanent. But in this path there is process and procedure. Even the slightest deviation in the gold elixir will not form. Therefore, people must first thoroughly investigate the true principle. Suggestions for meditation. In his commentary, Legge mentions that the Chinese see an analogy between this figure and hexagram number 48, the well. Compare the two figures, noting the similarities between the first, third, fifth, and sixth lines. The component trigrams of the sacrificial vessel appear in reverse sequence in hexagram number 37, family. What other similarities are there in the two figures? How is the idea of a family analogous to the idea of a sacrificial vessel? Turning back to hexagram 10, treading or cautious advance, we will read our changing lines 1, 3, and 5, keeping in mind they are the most potent, poignant, focused part of the reading, takes precedence over all other elements, puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or here are some places you may find yourself. And each of the changing lines has a different general context. Changing line 1, inklings just beginning to sense what could be involved or needed. 3, an emerging identity facing a transition with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. Changing line 5, strength and self-determination, clear vision, being in command. Changing line 1 of hexagram 10, treading or cautious advance. Changing line 1, leg. The first line dynamic shows its subject treading his accustomed path. If he go forward, there will be no error. Wilhelm/Bain's simple conduct, progress without blame. Lu, simplicity of conduct, continue, no blame. Ritzema Karcher, sheer treading going without fault. Wu, treading ahead in a blind manner will be blameless. Does remind me of the Fool. Commentary, Confucius/Leg, singly and exclusively he carries out his long cherished wishes. Wilhelm/Baines, the progress of simple conduct follows in solitude its own bent. Blofeld, conducting ourselves with simplicity while advancing suggests the ability to realize our desires without aid from others. Ritzema/Karcher, solitarily moving desire indeed. Cleary 2, to go treading plainly means to carry out your vows alone. Wu, he is willing to go alone. Leg, line 1 is a dynamic line in a dynamic place, giving us the idea of activity, firmness, and correctness. One so characterized will act rightly. Notes and paraphrases. Su, at the outset, the man is in a subordinate position without social obligation. Progress will be attained without blame if he remains content with his simple, accustomed path, making no demands upon others. Wing, use your most basic values of conduct in advancing toward your aim. Do not try to use others beyond maintaining friendly relations. Do not become obligated to others in your endeavors. Your position is low. Simplicity in your behavior will prevent mistakes and allow you to progress. Editor. Wilhelm's rendition of the Confucian commentary uses the word solitude, and Blofeld emphasizes the idea of progress without aid from others. The idea is that of walking one's path alone, heedless of the external opinions of others or of the autonomous clamor of our own inner complexes. It can sometimes take the meaning of mind your own business. Quote from Proverbs 4:25, let your eyes be fixed ahead, your gaze be straight before you. Let the path you tread be level and all your ways made firm. Turn neither to right nor to left. Keep your feet clear of evil. James Dekorne breaks changing line 1 down into 2 possible succinct definitions, A and B. A, stay on your accustomed path. B, the situation is tricky, but if you proceed with business as usual, you can avoid trouble. Changing line 3, leg. The third line magnetic shows a one-eyed man who thinks he can see, a lame man who thinks he can walk well, one who treads on the tail of the tiger and is bitten. All this indicates ill fortune. We have a mere bravo acting the part of a great ruler. Wilhelm/Baines, a one-eyed man is able to see, a lame man is able to tread, he treads on the tail of the tiger bites the man, misfortune. Thus does a warrior act on behalf of his great prince. Blofeld, though a man have but one eye, he can still see. Though he be lame, he can still walk. But he who treads upon the tiger's tail will get bitten. Disaster. Here the significance of the line runs counter to the benign significance of the hexagram. In all such cases, it is the line which provides the main indication of what is going to happen with regard to the matter forming the subject of the inquiry. The warrior undertakes things for his lord. This is no time to stand up to our superiors. tread on the tiger's tail. It is a time for obedience. Lu, a one-eyed man can see, a lame can walk, but when they step on the tail of the tiger will bite. Misfortune. The warrior conducts himself like a great prince. Okay, commentary. Confucius/Leg, a one-eyed man who thinks he can see, he is not fit to see clearly. A lame man who thinks that he can tread well, one cannot walk along with him. The ill fortune of being bitten arises from the place not being the proper one for him, a mere bravo acting the part of a great ruler. This is owing to his aims being too violent. Confucius/Wilhelm/Baines, a one-eyed man is able to see, but not enough for clarity. A lame man is able to tread, but not enough to tread with others. The misfortune in the biting of the man is due to the fact that the place is not appropriate. Thus does a warrior act on behalf of his great prince, because his will is firm. Okay, a lot more of that kind of stuff. Leg, line 3 is neither central nor in a magnetic place, which would be proper to it. But with the strength of will, which the occupant of a dynamic place should possess, he goes forward with the evil results cited. The editors of the Imperial edition in illustration of the closing sentence refer to Analects 7, X. Notes and paraphrases. Su, the man recklessly exposes himself to danger which exceeds his powers of handling. He invites disaster thereby. Wing, you are not suited for the ambitiousness of your goals. Your powers are not adequate. Willfulness on your part could end in disaster. Such conduct is only for someone willing to throw himself away for a superior. Editor, the content here does not lend itself to the usual gender symbolism for a magnetic line. Leg and Wu's interpretation of the line and Confucian commentary differ conceptually from the other translators. For purposes of comparison, I have rendered all versions of the Confucian commentary more thoroughly than usual. As the only magnetic line in the hexagram, 3 is outclassed and overwhelmed, yet still serves the ruler. If this is the only changing line, the dynamic emerges with a corresponding line of we see its subject as the superior man, active and vigilant all the day, and in the evening still careful and apprehensive. The position is dangerous, but there will be no mistake. The image suggests a warrior who has only partial comprehension of a dangerous situation. His ability to serve his ruler is also impeded. Despite these handicaps, his devotion is such that he will expose himself to great danger in the service of his lord and suffer because of it. A quote from Yamamoto Tsunetomo in the Book of the Samurai. If one were to say in a word what the condition of being a samurai is, its basis lies first in seriously devoting one's body and soul to his master. James Dekorne breaks changing line 3 down into 3 possible succinct definitions, A, B, and C. A, the image is one of inadequate strength or resources to deal with a superior force. Regardless, the confrontation seems to be mandated. Thus does the ego serve the self. B, serve the work with a warrior's spirit. Yours is not to reason why, yours is but to do or die. C, even when one's heart is in the right place, partial comprehension and insufficient ability can be expected to create distress. An alternate. This line can also suggest foolhardy arrogance rather than blind obedience to a superior. In such instances, the familiar lady from Liger limerick seems more appropriate. There was an old lady of Liger who went riding on the back of a tiger. They came back from the ride with the lady inside and a smile on the face of the tiger. And D is another possible succinct definition, I suppose. Incompetence plus arrogance equals disaster. So changing line 5, leg. The 5th line dynamic shows the resolute tread of its subject. Though he be firm and correct, there will be peril. Wilhelm/Baines, resolute conduct, perseverance with awareness of danger. Lu, continue in a decisive manner, danger. There is now a tendency to rush and be careless. By all means stop this, or troubles will mount and disaster will come. Cleary, 1. Treading decisively, even if one is upright, there is danger. It is necessary to be upright and undivided, to master oneself in danger, so that one can avoid the problem of losing what has been gained. This is treading the path in which there is no one but oneself. Wu, he decides on treading. Despite perseverance, he is in a difficult situation. Use your power wisely and judiciously, or you will fall. Commentary, Confucius/Leg. This is due to his being in the position that is correct and appropriate to him. Wilhelm/Baines. The place is correct and appropriate. Blofeld. This trouble could arise despite the suitable position of the line. A firm line between two firm ones is usually an omen of strength and compatibility, but not in this case. Thus, even though we are quite certain our course is a right one, and we therefore follow it boldly, trouble cannot be avoided. We should either walk delicately or refrain from the course altogether. Ritzema/Karcher. Situation correcting appropriate indeed. Cleary, too. Decisive treading is correct yet dangerous. The position is appropriate. Wu. This is his proper position notwithstanding. Leg. Beneath the symbolism under line 5 lies the principle that humility is the better part of propriety. Line 5, who is dynamic and central, will not be lacking in this, but bear in mind that the higher he is exalted, the greater may be his fall. Notes and paraphrases. Su. Peril is evident, as when treading on the tail of a tiger, but the man remains aware and resolute, acting with propriety and humility. Wing. What you propose to do is dangerous, yet your awareness of such danger will give you the strength to succeed. The time requires a firm commitment to your endeavor. If you do not have a real commitment in your heart, you should re-examine your path. Editor. Line 5 is mentioned in the Confucian commentary for the hexagram as occupying the God-given position. Nevertheless, despite his will and intelligence, he faces a volatile situation which will demand all of his resources if he is to succeed. Ritzema/Karcher render adversity, Li, as danger, threatening, malevolent demon. It indicates a spirit or ghost that seeks revenge by inflicting suffering upon the living. Pacifying or exorcising such a spirit can have a healing effect. Wu's commentary offers a useful slant on this. De-emphasize your own opinions. Listen to the deliberations of others. A quote from Epictetus. The good or ill of man lies with his own will. James Dekorne breaks changing line 5 down into one possible succinct definition. A. Walking a razor's edge. Maintain vigilance over your choices and be aware of their consequences. The image suggests willpower in the face of potentially disruptive forces. It all depends on you. All right, getting to the Taoist Te Ching by I-Ming. He wrote this in 1796 as a Taoist adept, and I love him. Thank you, I-Ming. I love you, my man. Treading. 10. Even when they tread on a tiger's tail, it doesn't bite people. This is developmental. Explanation. Treading means forward progress. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is heaven, strong, and below is lake, joyous. Yin is rejoicing in yang. With the advance of one yin, the hexagram will change into pure yang. Representing this, it is therefore called treading. This hexagram symbolizes progression of yang and prevention of danger. It follows on the preceding hexagram, a cord. In a cord, yin follows yang, but if you want yin to follow, it is necessary first to advance yang. When the progression of yang reaches proper balance, yin naturally follows it. This is the appropriate priority of the path of advancing yang. The true yang in people is inherent and need not be sought from another. When it mixes with acquired conditioning, true feeling is obscured and arbitrary feelings arise. Then true yang runs away outside. This is likened to a tiger running off and staying elsewhere as a member of another's house. Though it is in another house, originally the tiger is one's own. It is just that people are not willing to call it back. The way of calling it back is not sought in heaven or earth or fire or water, but only in lake. Lake as the youngest daughter. In the so-called temporal arrangement of the trigrams are associated with members of a family. Heaven is father, earth is mother, thunder is eldest son, wind is eldest daughter, water is middle son, fire is middle daughter, mountain is youngest son, and lake is youngest daughter. Lake, as the youngest daughter, travels the path of receptive submission in place of Mother Earth, and is able to revert to yang by the culmination of yin. Its nature is harmonious and joyous. Being harmonious, it can relax. Being joyous, it can trust. Being relaxed, it can go gradually. Trusting, it can endure long. Able to relax and trust, powerful practice unrelenting, it is thereby possible to advance to the stage of indestructible firmness and strength, to again see the original face of heaven and not be injured by false yin and false yang. This is likened to treading on a tiger's tail without its biting people and having a way of development and growth. A tiger is something that bites people. It is most dangerous to tread on it. If one can tread with harmony and joyfulness without excessive ferocity, it is like treading on a tiger's tail. If one is careful, as if treading on a tiger's tail, looking ahead and behind, striking a balance without obsession or indifference, proceeding gradually in an orderly manner, forestalling danger, aware of perils, carrying out the firing process without error, then the yin can be transmuted into yang, and the yang can be restored to purity. Not only is one not bitten by the tiger, one can even take over the living energy in its killing and preserve life and being whole. This path of development and achievement without obstruction or hindrance through advancement of yang, treading strongly with harmony and joy, is of great benefit. And hexagram 50 our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel and an underlying issue, or an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. The cauldron is basically good. It is developmental. Explanation. The cauldron is a vessel for refining by heat, whereby something new is obtained. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is fire, luminous. Below is wind, penetrating, producing illumination through following an initiatory process. The mind becomes daily more humble, while illumination increases daily. In the body of the hexagram, in the second line, yang, and the fifth line, yin, emptiness and fullness correspond. Within illumination is the ability to be empty and open. Within obedience is the capacity for fulfillment. When empty and illumined, that enlightenment illumines all, and the mind cannot be moved by the vagaries of wealth and status. When fulfilled yet docile, all virtues are developed, and neither fortune nor calamity can disturb one's nature, producing illumination by following an initiatory process, following the process by opening awareness. Emptiness and fullness balance each other. It is like the light of fire increasing when it gets wood, like the unrefined energy of wood being all transformed when it meets fire. Because it has the meaning of refining heating, it is called the cauldron. This hexagram represents refining the great medicine. It follows on the previous hexagram, the well. The well indicates following a process and passing through danger. Having gotten through danger, the true yang trapped by conditioning is released, and the great medicine is born. Then, one can accordingly further illumination and operate the fire for refinement. The work of refinement is the means by which to sublimate earthly energy and stabilize celestial energy, causing the raw to ripen and the old to be renewed, whereby it is possible to illumine the mind and to solidify life. Therefore, the cauldron is basically good and it has a developmental path. The basis is the potential of everlasting life of goodness. The cooking of the great medicine in the cauldron is the firing of this living potential to make it incorruptible and permanent. But in this path, there is process and procedure. Even the slightest deviation and the gold elixir will not form. Therefore, people must first thoroughly investigate the true principle. Back to our primary hexagram 10, treading, to read our changing lines 1, 3, and 5, which are our most focused part of the reading. They put a pin in the map to say you are here, or here are some places you may find yourself. They take precedence over all other elements. They may not agree with one another, and in that case, we are to just gnaw on that, see what that could possibly mean for us. The general context of each is different. The changing line 1 has a general context of inklings, just beginning to sense what could be involved or needed. Line 3, an emerging identity, facing a transition with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. And changing line 5, strength and self-determination, clear vision, being in command. Changing line 1 of hexagram 10, treading. Treading plainly, going without fault. Explanation. Those with strength of mind and robust energy who are plain and sincere in treading the path are able to tread it with confidence in their steps. If they proceed in this way, they will surely progress to where there is no fault. This is treading with firmness of purpose. Changing line 3, able to see with a squint, able to walk with a limp. When they tread on the tiger's tail, it bites people. Inauspicious. A soldier becomes a ruler. Explanation. If one goes on the path impetuously, acting on one's own ignorance, not knowing the medicinal substances, not understanding the firing process, thinking ignorance to be knowledge, thinking incapacity to be ability, that is like seeing with a squint, walking with a limp. Treading on the tiger's tail, it will bite. One calls misfortune on oneself. This is also like a soldier becoming a ruler, bringing on disaster. This is treading the path ignorantly on one's own. Changing line 5, treading decisively. Even if one is upright, there is danger. Explanation. With strength and proper balance, following one's heart's desire without exceeding what is appropriate, treading the path decisively without getting into difficulty. Still, when the treading of the path reaches central balance and the gold elixir is formed, it is necessary to be upright and undivided, to master oneself in danger, so that one can avoid the problem of losing what has been gained. This is treading the path in which there is no one but oneself. We'll also read the commentary section on each of these, which I think I-Ming shines through brilliantly in often. Does not include our changing lines, but is most scrumptious. Scrumpdiddlyumptious. 10, treading. Heaven above, lake below. Above is the sky, below is a lake. Treading. Thus do superior people distinguish above and below and settle the will of the people. Treading means progressive ascent. Above is heaven, below is lake. The sky covers the lake. The lake looks up to the sky. So above and below have fixed positions which cannot be mixed up. This is the image of treading. What superior people see in this is that the metaphysical is called the Tao, and the physical is called the vessel. There is a distinction between the greater and lesser, a difference between the noble and the base. The higher is not to be considered lower, and the lower is not to be considered higher. The greater is not to be considered lesser, and the lesser is not to be considered greater. The noble is not to be considered base. The base is not to be considered noble. This is whereby to distinguish above and below and settle the will of the people, not allowing transgression through false ideas. The celestial is the ruler. This is higher, above. The earthly is the citizenry. This is lower, below. When one can distinguish the higher and lower, then right and wrong, sanity and aberration are clear. Not doing anything inappropriate, sustaining the celestial and controlling the earthly, cultivating the real and dissolving the false, thoughts not arising inwardly, external things not entering the mind. Myriad things are all empty of absoluteness, and all mundane feelings involved with objects are settled. In the body of the hexagram, lake is the mundane, representing arbitrary feelings. Heaven is the celestial, representing true sense. When the mundane treads under the celestial and the celestial treads on top of the mundane, then arbitrary feelings do not arise and true sense is always present. True sense is unemotional sense. Using unemotional sense to control feelings is like a cat catching a mouse, like boiling water being poured on snow. In a short time, calamity turns to fortune. The will of the people is settled, and there is nothing to thwart the Tao. Then one gradually puts into practice the pure, unadulterated vitality of firm strength and proper balance. But settling the will of the people is all a matter of being able to distinguish the higher and the lower. The stability attained will be in proportion to the degree to which this distinction is successfully made. If there is any lack of clarity in this distinction, there will be that much instability. Therefore, the sage's science of fulfillment of nature in comprehension of life requires thorough investigation of principle as the first step.
Can't ring enough bells. You know what I'm saying? God damn.
50. God didn't, damn it, beavers did. The Cauldron, our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Fire above, wind below. There is fire on top of wood, a cauldron. Thus do superior people stabilize life in the proper position. The cauldron stands for the process of refinement by fire. Above is fire, below is wind, associated with wood. There is fire on top of wood. Fire and wood in one place, refining things by heating, is the image of the cauldron. What superior people see in this is that just as a cauldron is a means of cooking things but cannot accomplish this without the action of wood and fire, in the same way, the Tao is the means of bearing life. But stabilization of life cannot be accomplished without the work of entry and understanding. Therefore, they gradually cultivate practice on the basis of the proper standpoint to stabilize their life. Proper means not being partial or biased, not being hypocritical or dishonest. The position or standpoint is the opening of the mysterious paths, the door of the earthly and the celestial. Stabilization means concentration without fragmentation. Life means the primordial generative energy. If one can make one's standpoint correct so that one's position is proper, one enters the Tao gradually and practices it with understanding. Benevolence, justice, courtesy, and knowledge root in the mind. Vitality, spirit, and earthly soul and the celestial soul combine. The elements of vitality, energy, spirit, essence, and intent integrate. Energy becomes replete, the spirit becomes complete, and life is stabilized. The path of stabilizing life lies entirely in work in the right place. To be incapable of the proper position is to be ignorant of the mysterious past. To be ignorant of the mysterious past is to be ignorant of life. Being ignorant of life leads to attachment to voidness or clinging to form, taking the false to be real, entering into the byways of auxiliary methods. then not only is one unable to stabilize life, one is even prone to injuring life. Life is the primordial sane energy. Life is what is correct. What is correct is life. The correct standpoint, the proper position is carefully preserving the sane energy in the mysterious past, maturing and refining it with both gentle and intense effort, working by day, cautious by night, not letting any external energy contaminate the cauldron and furnace. Aiming to correct that which is not correct, aiming to stabilize that which is unstable, proceeding from effort to finally reach spontaneity, returning from confusion to order. The work of stabilizing life in its proper position is consummated. We'll now get a randomly card-drawn chapter of the Tao Te Ching as our closing reading. No, sir. Okay, we'll call it 60. There it is. This is translated by Jia Fu Fang in Jane English. Ruling the country is like cooking a small fish. Approach the universe with Tao, and evil will have no power. Not that evil is not powerful, but its power will not be used to harm others. Not only will it do no harm to others, but the sage himself will also be protected. They do not hurt each other, and the virtue in each one refreshes both. Mm-hmm.